I guess you could say I've sort of tried to work out how many businesses I've actually opened, because I've actually had about 31 different outlets, you know, counting a cafe as an outlet, or a pub as an outlet, a restaurant as an outlet, a retail shop as an outlet. I've started about 31 different businesses, and we're working on 3 in the online space now. So, so I've been self-employed 20 years, managed to pay my way, brought my kids up. They all got private school education. I'm still paying that off, but that's okay. I call it renovations and grey walls. Grey walls means I've gone into a shop that's just Besser brick and turned it into a business. So I've done that 23 times, 7 renovations where you've got a trading business and you close it to renovate it and start again. Done a couple of chains, done franchising, currently started 3 in Work Skills Fund Developed. In terms of online reputation, you know, you could look at me on LinkedIn. There's a link there, you can have a look and see what's going on there. But knowledge is, Core is where I spend most of my time in sharing my knowledge. You know, I spend a lot of time writing really good answers in Core, because people ask me questions all the time about stuff. And if it's something that really appeals to me, I do spend a lot of time and answer it, not just for that person, but for any person that might be after that sort of question. So, you know, I've done that. I'm up to my 1,000th question I answered on the weekend. So there's 1,000 questions. I know every one of them are comprehensive answers. They're not meant to be just throwaway answers. So it's worth getting a look at that. For those of you that are interested in my experience, maybe it aligns with some of the things you're doing. A lot of time in retail, particularly department and specialty retail. Hospitality, obviously, cafes, takeaway restaurants, food courts. Manufacturing, flooring, furniture, sawmilling, resources, nickel, gold, timber, consultancy in education, construction in plasterboard, internet, social community networks, and my qualifications are in accounting and finance, believe it or not. But I didn't go on to make a living out of that. I just wanted it to make sure that there was a solid financial backing or financial understanding to what I do. And funnily enough, on Quora, which has these 80 million people, I'm ranked #1 for accounting, and I don't have an accounting degree. I don't have an accounting qualification. You know, I don't belong to anyone. But what happens is that it's voted up based on people that can explain accounting to other people, and so that's what I spend a lot of time doing, is taking concepts that I've struggled with and explaining to others. I don't explain it from an accounting point of view. I explain it from what I think is an easier to understand point of view. So funnily enough, because it works on upvotes, I have the most upvotes for the concept of accounting, and none of these other people who are gurus in accounting can understand. But that's the case with online reputations. There's a space out there for you to actually own. You can go and own something on the internet, you know, the same way that they did in America. They got wagons and they said, go left, and when you can get to a spare space, claim it as your own. The internet is that sort of space right now. It's asking for people to own a share of it. In time, you'll have to pay for that space. But right now, it's free. And you can establish your reputation in the area that you most want to do. It's freely available. Sadly, for Australia, is that we're not taking advantage of that. But I can tell you there's 1.2 billion Indians that are into that space like you wouldn't believe. And by the time we figure out that we should be in the online space, guess what? You're going to be on page 100. Because in front of you are 100 pages of Indian businesses that have already taken that space. And this is the great tragedy that we're facing, that we're not waking up as a nation to that problem. But anyway, that's for Phil to sort out. He's going to be a PhD and he'll go and sort them out. My startups, what I'm working on at the moment, or I'm working on with Phil, we've been together now for about 4 or 5 years working through this. We've been busy in the educational institutions, but we're also working on this, and obviously our employer knows all about it and is working with us on it. But we have Industry Professor Association, which we've put together, which is trying to get the people with all that knowledge, all that information that's out there, and it's not being used by educational institutions. We're trying to get those people who have got that knowledge and bring them in and try and use that resource for educational learning. So we've created Industry Professor Association. We own the trademark called Industry Professor. So if anyone uses the word Industry Professor in Australia, we can sue them because we actually own that name. It's a trademark name. So that's interesting, isn't it? I'll tell you about that later. Skillmaker is our MOOC. I don't know whether any of you know about MOOCs. MOOC is the the cheapest possible online education that you can get. We're developing courses in Skillmaker, and we're actually aligning our courses or working in partnership with some of the big registered training organisations in Australia. So we're pretty excited about that. So instead of having to do it on our own, we're doing it in partnership with already existing places. But we're doing, that business is all about very, very affordable online education. Helping learners access and apply best practice industry skills at what we call freemium prices. So there's always a free element, and then if you want more, obviously we charge, and the thing we charge for is the qualification. So you can get all your learning for free. And then if you say, oh, but I'd like to get a qualification, that's when we go to these education institutions who are quite happy to use our courses to accredit people, because our courses actually align with the Australian qualification. So that's very interesting. And then also we're doing Now Master. And Now Master is just our business that helps industry rock stars. Out of these people that we get, there's going to be some really fantastic people who we're just going to milk for their information and turn it into courses and ebooks and tutorials and all sorts of things. There's so many online learning concepts that you can monetize, and we want to be involved with that with our Now Master. And to make passive income from online courses, basically, that's what we want to work with. So when we looked at education disruption and reform, we realised we needed these three arms to make it all happen. And we put that in play. Everything's moving ahead, but we haven't really, the thing that was really going to trigger us last year hasn't come yet, but we're hoping that will come very shortly. So in other words, you guys are coming to me and saying, Pete, we want to learn about startups. Well, I've done startups. I've done how many years of it? 30 years of startup. But I'm currently still working on startups now. So I've got the same problem you've got of customers, of coming up with models that make it work, getting resources, finance. I'm in the same problem that you've got. And so you're not talking to someone that, 20 years ago I did something and let me tell you how it's done. I'm in the market right now, and that's what I say to Phil. Well, let's start a business. Let's show you how to start a business during the course. So we're going to start another business, another online business. We'll work out how much it costs at the end. If anyone wants to buy it from us, they can for the cost of what it costs. So there's a good. Let's just listen to this guy.
People say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing. And it's totally true. And the reason is because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard. And you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, if you're not having fun doing it, you don't really love it, you're going to give up. And that's what happens to most people, actually. If you really look at the ones that ended up being successful, unquote, in the eyes of society, and the ones that didn't, oftentimes it's the ones that are successful loved what they did so they could persevere when it got really tough. And the ones that didn't love it quit because they're sane, right? Who would want to put up with this stuff if you don't love it? So it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of worrying constantly. And if you don't love it, you're going to fail. So you got to love it. You got to have passion. And I think that's
That's just an excerpt from that. But that's Steve Jobs, obviously, the guy that started and resurrected Apple. Amazing guy. He called it putting a dent in the universe. That was what he did, and he did plenty of that, didn't he? But why I play it to you, because what you're asking me to do is teach you how to do something that's nearly impossible to do. It's a bit like you guys have come along and said, Pete, can you show us how to win the Olympic gold medal for the 100-metre sprint? It's about that level of difficulty that you're asking. Now, it's not impossible, but we're talking about something that's not going to be easy. What I think I can do is help make it easy. Because of my experience, I can help you. I can help you come up with a process that can make it less risky. You'll still have risks, you'll still have failures, but have it in a way that failures don't take you out of the game. They just become a learning experience. And he talks about how hard it is. Anyone that's been in business, I mean, you're doing it pretty well at the moment, but it's difficult. And one of the problems you have, believe it or not, is when you become successful. One of the causes of business failure is unbridled success. The last thing you want in business is a success that just runs away from you, because guaranteed you'll fail. Because it's just like, you know, it's great to have horses that drag you along, but what happens if they're bolting? You know, that's a failure, and that's what can happen in a business. So at every point there is challenges. Now, I don't want to put you off by that, but I just want to say that you're not going to get, you know, they have it here all the time at Convention Centre. The 10 secrets of success. Come here, pay $100, or even come along for free. But you end up having to buy their book or their course or something. But come along and I'll tell you the 10 secrets that no one's ever told you. And you're going to walk out with the secrets and you are going to make a fortune. Well, if the guy really knew how to make a fortune, wouldn't he be just making a fortune for himself? And the truth is he is. He makes it out of the books that he sells. And his whole thing is set up to make money out of you. Well, you're not going to get that from me. You're going to get it from someone that actually really, you know, my history is peppered with failure. And you know, luckily not of late, but in the early days it was just fraught with failure. I didn't know. I didn't even know the things I didn't know. And I suspect there's a lot of you tonight that have come because you say, look, Pete, we know what we don't know, but we don't know what it is, you know. And so what we're going to endeavour to do in the course is take you through all the things, those 48 things that I've extracted. I said, well, these are the things that you do need to know. And hopefully at the end of the course, you'll say, well, Peter didn't talk about it, so maybe it's not that something that I should be that concerned about. But let me keep going. So he talked about it being, this is success, guys. It's so hard over a sustained period. It's irrational. A lot of your friends and family are going to say you're mad, you know. You need passion, like we were talking about before. You know, you do need that passion. Now, I'm not saying you just live off passion, because passion is not going to pay the bills. You know, but sometimes you need, passion is what keeps you going when it's pretty tough. Passion is what's going when you sit there and say, well, we're just going to stay with this thing because I can't imagine a life doing something else, you know. This is what I want my life to be, you know. So you can't separate that. And you've got to love it, you've got to have fun, and you do. And they're never giving up. Now, I've given up lots of times. What he's talking about is never giving up on the ideal, never giving up on the thought that you're going to self-actualize, never give up on the thought that your life is going to be for some meaning, that it's not just going to be, you know, cows live, or no, cows don't live, they exist. They wake up, they make some milk, and then eventually they get shot and chopped up for, you know, that's an existence. And so many of us, so many people live out an existence, and the path that you guys are sort of thinking about and tampering with is not an existence, believe me. It's living. It's living out on the edge. It's living where failure reigns. And the reason why failure reigns out there, because you guys are self-actualizing. You're becoming the best that you can be. You're not staying within your comfort zone. You're going right out to the edge. And out on that edge, you're going to fall over a few times. And I know where the edge is now because I've fallen over it so many times. And that's why when I do business, I take someone like this with me, who does all the parts that I don't understand and don't, you know, so I have to go into business with a partner, because we'll do a test later on where I test whether you have business acumen or whether you have entrepreneurial acumen, because they're two distinct different skills, and both of them are necessary for your business to be successful. And when I do the test, I'm 100% entrepreneurial. I have no business acumen. All the business acumen I have, I've learnt. Whereas when Phil does the test, he comes out as significantly business acumen, because that's his natural predisposition. Anyway, those are the things that equal success. So, you know, I've often said people don't want to know that. Pete, you can't sell books on this, you know. You can't sell courses on it's going to be hard, it's irrational. People want to know the high fives, the 5 secrets that they implement tomorrow make $1 million. It doesn't happen. No business out there is existing like that. But it's okay. All of these things that I'm talking about, we can do. So let's keep going. I estimate, and I put this to Phil, because Phil came into the entrepreneurial thing a bit later than me. I started many years ago, and I think Phil's watched me and said, oh, let's do something together. So we did a coffee shop together, and I think he learned all about entrepreneurship and how hard. He said, I really want to own a coffee shop, and I said, I think you're going to find that the coffee shop will own you. But anyway, let's just keep going and doing that. And I think that's what he'll admit to today, if you ask him honestly. it ended up being that the coffee shop owned him. You know, at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're just lying in there and the staff don't turn up. So a phone call, Fred hasn't turned up. You've got no one to do but you have to go down there and open the store. So there's about 10,000 decisions. And I'm not lying. That's 10,000 decisions you've got to make between now and a successful business. And that's probably just a sustainable business. We aren't even talking about growth here. We're not even to the growth part. There's 10,000 decisions you've got to make. And this course, and in those 10,000 decisions, just the sheer scale of that, you know, that there's a scale that you've got to do, and there's urgency. Once you start in a business, it comes at you. You know, the next decision you've got to make is this afternoon, and you go, well, I'm just coping with what I decided, you know, this morning. Well, these decisions come at you in a matter of urgency, and you have no experience. If you've never started a business before, you have no experience. I don't care. I had 10 years at David Jones in corporate life. I thought I had experience. I reckon it counted for less than 10% of what I needed to know. And that was with an account, all my accounting studies at QUT and all this sort of stuff. I had all that going for me. I went and saw an advisor. They said, oh, you know all that you need to know. I knew nothing, because starting a business is so different. It's a complete different mindset. Anyway, your lack of experience, and like I say, it doesn't count the fact that you've done anything else except start a business before. If you've started a business before, you have experience. So congratulations, you have some experience. But so you're ready to go on your next one now. And you know, like I say, I've done this 30 times. We're going to do another one tonight. I'll probably put that on the board for next year. And lack of resources. Who's got the resources? Who's got the money to do all this? Who's got the brain power? Who's got the energy to carry all this out? Very, very difficult. And you've got a limited buffer against your wrong decisions. You know, you don't, corporations are pretty lucky because they make a wrong decision. Oh, I lost 100 million there. We better better not make that mistake again. You guys don't have that. You guys don't have $50 to go blowing on anything and saying, oh, that was a mistake. And the unfortunate thing is we are going to have to make mistakes. So we need to learn how to test things and find out the mistakes in things without it taking us out of the game. And that's part of the course and what we teach you. So this course is about this. I'm going to help you make 100 decisions. So you've only got 9,900 to make all by yourself. But the 100 decisions I'm going to help you make are at the coat hanger level. You know, I often talked about that you know, that the hook is the thing that hangs the whole thing, isn't it? So it's only a small part of the whole coat hanger, but without it, the whole thing collapses. So we're going to deal with the top 100 decisions, which are obviously big picture, which are obviously what we call modeling and that sort of stuff. We're not going to deal with the 9,900. You're going to have to deal with all those all by yourself. But there are that many decisions just in your face, the decisions you've got to make just time after time. How do I turn that sound out? Can't. So what can we do about it? I'll just go through these reasonably quickly because I don't want to leave you. But so this course, I still call it the Start Your Own Business course because that's what it is. And like I say, any of you that have come here to learn management of a small business, sadly, we haven't got the time in this course to do that. It's probably a course I could run at a subsequent time, but right now we're just concentrating on starting. So in terms of the scale and urgency, we can do some pre-planning and some big picture stuff. We're going to be doing that. We're going to put you through some big picture concepts. In terms of experience, it's okay. We're going to be doing group work. We're going to be relying on the help from one another. Obviously, you're going to have the experience of me to be able to guide you. And if you've got questions, I can obviously help you. In terms of resource, well, we've got classmates and you've got mentors. I'm putting a call out to all my past people that have been through this course because a lot of them have gone on to start businesses. And I want to get them back. And we're going to grill them about what works and what doesn't work. So I'll be getting a lot of those people in. In terms of a limited buffer, we have what we do now is what we call affordable loss. We know that we're going to get something wrong, but we make sure that it's an affordable loss. Now that sounds really weird. I didn't come here to learn about affordable loss. I came here to learn about how to make a fortune. Well, the way to make a fortune is to learn how to properly apply affordable loss. To look at a thing and say, well, I don't know whether that's going to work, but if it doesn't work, I can afford to lose that. Funny you know, the failure thing is big time on the internet, in the entrepreneurial circles. Everyone wants to know about people's failures. It's become a hot topic at the moment. But I remember some time ago, I was talking to a mate up in, who had a business up in Cairns. I said, so how's the new business going? He says, oh, it should be really good. And I said, oh, what do you mean? He says, oh, I think this one's going to fail really quickly. Because the last thing you want is a business that doesn't fail, but it doesn't succeed, and it just eats at you. And 99% of business failure is not the ones that close, it's the ones that keep trading. It's the ones that keep trading without a substantial, you know, in other words, the guy could have sold the place, put the money in the bank and earned 7%, and gone and worked for McDonald's and earned more money than he was per hour than what he was earning in his own business. The sad thing about our businesses that we create is that most of them aren't sustainable. And they're sustained usually by the owner putting in incredibly long hours. And that's not, to me, that's a really sad thing. And it's too good to walk away from, in the sense that there's value there, but it's too bad to keep trading. And people that are trapped in that, and I don't know whether you know friends or that like that, horrible position to be. I've been in that position. And that's why in this course we're going to be looking at ways in which you can structure your business so you get subjective margins. You talked before about setting prices. Well, there's a clever way to play with prices. There's a clever way to do things that your customers are still very happy to pay, but actually you're making a decent living out of it. And that's what I want to show you during the course. This is going to hurt. Oh, why is it so hard? Well, the risks. Safe business is here. We all know that. You know, if that was a spinning wheel, the safe business is in the middle, isn't it? But the trouble is all the existing businesses have moved into that space. There isn't a market out there that the best places have already been taken by the existing players. That's what they've done. That's what they've earned for themselves. They've earned themselves the safe business. So everything that exists for you is on the fringe. And the fringe is that far away from failure. That's why it's so hard. You're forced into high-risk areas. You can't help it. You want to go and open your practice. But the trouble is there's people already there. They've already got the key government contracts and all this sort of stuff. You're forced into going for something a whole lot more risky. That's why it's hard. You don't know what you don't know. You know, that's a funny sort of statement. It's not mine. But you actually, if I say, so what is it you want to know? I say, I don't know. I know I don't know stuff, but I don't know what it is that I don't know. And so we're going to help you with that in the course. And you've got to see failure as the new teacher. I mean, that's most people with a corporate mindset, and I'll have you out by 8:30. Most people with a corporate mindset, failure is the last thing you need. That's going to look bad on your CV. Don't do that job. It's a career ender. Because if it fails, your life will be all over. Well, unfortunately, in our world, we actually have to embrace failure. We actually have to learn how to manage failure. We have to learn how to learn from failure. And some of that might simply be like we do. We run online things and they just don't work. We go, well, that didn't work. But it costs us a couple of hours of Phil's time, which is always good, and 30 minutes of my thinking, though. No. Sometimes, you know, the cost of getting that learning was a lot smaller than and that's the beauty of online, is that you can test ideas so much easier than the way I used to have to do it. The first business I ever had, I had to sell because I went to the bank and they said, no, we're not going to loan you money for a business. Are you crazy? We get enough money. We can make enough money by lending money to people who want to pay mortgages and pay us for 30 years. Why would we want to take money, risk money on you? So I actually had to sell my house to get the equity out of it, because the equity was in there. It was the equity meaning the amount of the house that I owned, but the bank wouldn't recognise, or at least they wouldn't give me much money against that equity. Banks are a little bit better these days with small business, but that was the case. So if I was going to go into business with sufficient capital, I actually had to sell my house to do it, and that's what I did. So I put my kids and wife into a flat, and I got that equity, and I went and started the business. And so I actually had to put everything on the line for my first business. I would never do that again. And I can, hopefully during the course, I can show you ways of testing your idea without having to take that route. And we have no customers, and so we've got no money. You know, we've all got these wonderful ideas and all that sort of stuff, but where's our customers? Where are the people that are going to buy this from you? And you've got a beautiful plan, but where's the customer? We need to get some customers. So in terms of high risk, we're not going to try and avoid high risk. We're going to manage high risk. We're going to learn how to manage risk. The things we don't know, well, that's what coaching is all about, isn't it? Coaching, my coaching is all about saying, look, I've done this 30 times. These are the things you need to know. And if I haven't talked about it, there's a pretty good chance, while it might be something that would be nice to know, it's not essential. It's not one of the 100 essential things you need to do. You need to get some market intelligence. You know, in terms of the things you don't know, well, you're going to have to go and find out. You can go to our library and do some of the research stuff, but more importantly, why don't you bring your cupcakes in here and see what people say? See whether when people buy it, say, would you pay $3 for that? And see the face that goes, or see the, oh yeah, bring 10 next week, here's my money. You know, do some market intelligence. That's how you're going to risk, that's how you're going to deal with the don't know. Failure basically is a mindset. You know, we can, you know, scientists don't think they fail. You know, a scientist goes and he tries an experiment and he fails. Oh, I'm a hopeless scientist, I'm going to give it up. They fail all day long. Scientists fail for 30 years until they figure something out. Edison said, what did he say? I didn't fail. I just found 10,000 ways that don't work. I discovered stuff, you know. And so we need to have a new, you know, any of you do gaming? I do gaming. StarCraft 2. Anyone into StarCraft 2? No. Oh, you're missing out. In gaming, when you lose, you don't say, oh, I'm a hopeless game, I'm never playing games again. You say, I'm going to learn from that, and next time that guy comes at me, I know how to deal with it. And that's, so you treat failure as a learning experience, and it's no different in what we're going to do. We're going to go through experiences that are not going to work. In fact, we're planning that they're not going to work, but we're going to get some learning out of it. We're going to say, well, that's not the market we should be going for, because we went and talked to 10 people in that market, and none of them are interested, you know. So let's change our market and go for something else, you know. No customers. So we're going to go on that customer development process, which we'll cover in the course. All right, I'll just cover this and then I'll go. Otherwise, our ears will blow up. Some of you might have seen this risk management profile. It's a risk management profile that talks about the likelihood, the chance of something happening against, if it does happen, what sort of an impact. And so obviously something that has got almost certain to happen and a catastrophic outcome, you want to avoid that, don't you? Like jumping off the Story Bridge, I don't want to mention that, but you know, doing something that's got a guaranteed catastrophic outcome, we're going to avoid that, yeah? And we're going to avoid, even if it's almost certain major, and if it's likely, and we're just going to avoid that area. If that's an area that you're thinking of going into business, and I get some people that come and tell me about businesses that are right in that space, I just say, just avoid it. That is not a place to go, you know, what we call a business. As you come back here, these areas, experts only can operate in these sort of areas as we come. This is a risk matrix. As we come back here, these are you know, commercial risk return. These are no markets. No learning, you know. So if you read that, you'll see here skilled operators. What you want to do, and this is the trick. You want to go into risky areas, because remember I said that's where the markets are. That's the only markets you've got left. You can't go and take on CSR with their sugar. You can't go and take on dairy farmers with their milk. You can't go and take on, because they own that space. What you've got to find is the space that is more risky, but we need to learn how to manage the risk in that space. So what I'm saying is that this is affordable risk zone, something that's almost certain and likely to happen, but it's insignificant. It's not going to affect you, but you're going to get a learning from it. That's what we want to do. And we're going to stay in this course in a lot of this area. We're going to, and we'll show you with the way we develop this online business, we'll show you how we go and test things in this area. Don't cost us a lot of money, don't cost us a lot of time, but we get some learning. This is affordable loss. Once we master that, once we understand the risk, once we understand the concepts we need to deal with, we can then move into the commitment zone, and the commitment zone is going to be more risky. But we only go there after we've already played in that affordable loss area. We don't start here like I did on my first business. I just went straight into commitment. I sold the house, I put it on the horse 7, race 5, it felt like that. And I opened a craft and wool shop in the middle of Queen Street Mall. I went straight into commitment without any knowledge of how to make a business work. And sadly, it was really successful. So guess what I did? I expanded. And guess what? I came a cropper in the expansion. That's where I failed in that first business, not the concept. Oh, sorry. Sorry. So back to the commitment zone, and we're going to finish on that. So what we want to do in a lot of the things, we're going to do a lot of different things in the course, but we are certainly going to teach you about how you test your ideas in the affordable loss. Don't test your idea in the commitment zone. Don't go and say, honey, I'm talking to Pete, he said we're going to sell our house and we're going to go and put this on race 5, horse 7, you know. No, I didn't. I said, let's test the idea back here. How can we test the idea? How can we take this idea you've got and get some market intelligence on it? And there's no sense in saying, oh, I'm going to keep it secret from everyone. Boy, at some point you're going to have to tell the world, aren't you? And at some point you want that world to start buying from you. So best to find out now that there's no market. Let's find out right at the start that there's no market for this thing before we get into the commitment zone. And this is how in entrepreneurship or start your own business, this is how we learn how to get into that commitment zone safely by first of all going through this affordable loss zone, or the learning zone. So we're going to be covering that in the course.